What's going on, guys? So today we're going to do probably the most significant and important upgrade using an invention that, quite frankly, is amazing. And it's something that if you haven't thought of in your RV or even in your vehicle, you probably should. But before we get started with that, I want to give you a real quick update. If you look at the lower corner of the screen, you can probably just start to see my Owl Dashcam that I've been using for a while now. They sent it to me to give a fair and honest evaluation of what I think about it. There's a lot of things to like about it, but at the same time, there's a few areas that I believe it could use improvement. The first one is the app on the phone. Now, I'm running it on an LG V40 smartphone, and occasionally when I go to look at the live camera, the screen is completely black, and I have to shut the app down completely in order to reopen it. And that's whether I'm in LTE or not. So I could have really good signal where everything else is going really fast, yet the screen is still black. The second one is they use these really bright LED lights that illuminate the interior of your vehicle anytime the camera detects the vehicle jostle or a hard impact. And when you get in the vehicle, though, it needs to pair to your phone via Bluetooth automatically to turn those lights off so it doesn't just continuously blind you, especially at night. Occasionally, that process takes a little longer than you might think. So if you're getting in your vehicle and it's really dark outside, those lights can sometimes blind you. And that's another feature that perhaps they could speed up the process of it associating to your phone to know that you're the one getting in your vehicle. And then the other one, and this is really a minor one, is anytime you get in your vehicle, even if you unlock it or remote start it, sometimes the camera thinks that somebody's bumped or tapped into your vehicle, so you're going to be getting alerts. And you can turn those minor alerts off, but sometimes you want to be warned of things that take place in a parking lot, like somebody's door accidentally impacting your door. And if you turn all those alerts off, it's only going to notify you if something extreme happens, like if somebody crashes into your vehicle or bumps into it pretty hard. That all being said, I absolutely love the system because I have that live view into my camera, into my vehicle, and out the front. And that's just a lot of peace of mind, especially if you keep your vehicle parked outside. Let's say you live in an apartment complex, or you just have to park it outside at the office or at your home. Because it doesn't need to connect to Wi-Fi and it uses AT&T's LTE network, you really are going to have a good video picture anytime you're in an area where you have good LTE signal. That being said, just a few minor improvements, and I think the system would be amazing. Anyways, guys, hang tight because you're going to want to watch the rest of this video. So several months ago, one of my subscribers forwarded me a link to a product that they thought might be very helpful for the RV industry. The name of the product was Proteng, and it is the automatic fire suppression system. So I had to check this out. They had several videos that were posted on YouTube and other forums basically showing how their product works. Now, when it comes to RVing, there are a lot of different things that can keep you stressed out, such as sway when you're towing, or other people cutting in front of you, or trying to stop your large rig while you're going down the road. When you're parked at an RV park, there generally aren't too many things that can concern you unless you have something like a plumbing issue. But the number one universal thing I think that stresses a lot of people out is the chance of a fire occurring. And anytime a fire occurs in an RV, whether it's at your house, whether it's at an RV park or resort, or even in storage, it can usually be linked back to a few specific things. Probably the number one concern is a propane electric refrigerator fire. And that's essentially where the refrigerator catches fire, because the process of cooling for a propane electric refrigerator involves heating up ammonia and essentially making a chemical reaction that cools down the interior of the refrigerator. Well, that small flame can occasionally catch fire and cause a bigger flame, which can turn into an RV fire. There are a few other places that things like that could occur, such as the breaker box, maybe even your battery box. So this video is to address how you can better protect your RV and your tow vehicle from a fire occurring when you're traveling or while you're at an RV park. Now, the Proteng is a really innovative product because it uses a very safe compound inside of it called FM200, which is designed to put the fire out instantaneously through a pressurized tube. Once that tube reaches almost 200 degrees or direct contact with a flame for several seconds, it's going to burst, release its contents, and essentially smother any fire that it's around. you do have to be aware that you need the specific tube designed for a specific location. If you get a tube that's too small or too short, then of course it's not going to have the materials inside of it to smother a larger fire. So you want to be sure that placement is done correctly and you follow their instructions when it comes to putting these either in your vehicle or in your RV or wherever you plan on using them. This isn't something you're going to want to put in your home yet, but they are working on a product that can be used in your home or even be used on things like a tire fire or a larger fire that might be occurring outside of your vehicle or in a certain area of your vehicle that these can't be contained to. Anyways, guys, we are on our way out to the RV so I can show you these products and where we're going to put them and how they work. So we'll be right back. Okay, so we're out here at the RV, and I have several of the Proteng tubes that are in front of me. This one right here is going to be placed behind the refrigerator, which has the highest risk of fire. And if it does, you want to put that one out as quick as possible. This is one of their larger tubes. You can see the specifics of this tube on it. And these smaller tubes are going to be placed in more strategic locations. So I'll have some of them placed near the hot water heater, I'll have one placed near the battery box, and another one placed near some of the switches and some of the other controls that are potentially at risk of overloading, overheating if there's a short. Now, with each Proteng, you're going to get this little instruction thing and a warranty card, which gives you a lot of detailed information about the specifics of the tube. It's going to tell you specifically how many grams are in that tube, and it gives you other information such as kind of a location of where you might want to mount it and what it's used for. On the back is even more relevant information, basically describing that it contains a clean agent FM200 designed to suppress fire at its inception before it has a chance to spread. It also tells you you're not going to want to put this directly against anything that gets incredibly hot, like a radiator, turbocharger pipe, exhaust pipe, things like that that will automatically heat the system up to where it could burst. You want to space these off of items that might get hot themselves to the point of either melting or damaging or triggering the tube to burst. Now in front of me is a tube that they also sent me that has been discharged. So this specific tube was actually contacted with heat and fire in this specific location. You can see where it started to swell and the contents inside of it burst. It instantly put out the fire. And I'll include some video overlays here that you can see of how quickly this extinguishes a fire. Now I know that this is probably not going to put out every possible fire, and there's always a chance of reignition depending on what's burning and how it's burning. The key behind this is that it gives you a tremendous amount of peace of mind if you're sleeping in your fifth wheel, if you're sleeping in your bedroom, and a fire starts somewhere in your coach and you need it extinguished quickly, or if you need more time to get out or even to your fire extinguisher to help manage that fire. This is a very innovative product, and when I saw it, I was very impressed by how it worked in the demonstrations they showed me, and I had to get my hands on some of these to show you guys. So this system is going to go in several parts of the RV. Let's get it installed now. Now I have the front hatch to the fifth wheel open. My battery's right here. Here's all my main wiring, and as you can see, this could be an area where you might see a fire or something form. And what I want to do is I want to protect this jumble of wire in case they ever start to overheat or short out or catch fire. I want to put it out. So the first Proteng is going to be installed right up against that harness back here. I'm simply going to zip tie it in place. There we go. First Proteng is installed. Okay, so the second Proteng is going to be installed behind the refrigerator here. So I need to remove this panel. I'm simply going to rotate these to the side. This will pop off. And here is the electronic area behind the actual refrigerator. This is a drain line. And this is probably going to be your most concerning area, again, when you have a travel trailer or fifth wheel or any type of motorhome. This is the part you want to protect the most. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Proteng, I'm going to wrap it around this specific area right here. Just in the event there's a fire, anything else breaks out here, this system should extinguish it very quickly. Okay, so we have the Proteng installed in here. It's simply curled up. There really was no area to zip tie it or that it needed to be zip tied. It's in there and it's wedged in well. This is where your ammonia is stored. This is where your heating element is behind this heat shield. Having this in this area shouldn't be a concern at all. If a fire breaks out in here, you can see that there's tubing that can apply the extinguishing material at any point inside of this area, and that's exactly how I want this set up. So this one's already in place. I really didn't have to zip tie it to anything. It's not going to move around once I put the cover back on. I think I'll be in good shape. So again, this is a lot of peace of mind, especially if you're sleeping at night and you're afraid that something may happen to the heating element in your refrigerator and it could cause a fire. So let's go ahead and put the cover back on and we'll move on to the next installation. Okay, so the hot water heater is next. And this one's going to be very simple because I don't have to do a lot here. There's hot air that's going to be coming out of here. There's hot air up here. This is the area that there could be some type of an issue. But you can see this big long clearing right here. Now I'm going to come back with some zip tie pads to secure this here. But in reality, I just need to set this right here. And if this gets hot enough to burst this, it's going to extinguish the fire and we'll be safe. Now another area that I'm going to place one of these is back behind this control panel here for the slides. The reason why is there is a ton of wiring back here, and you can easily have some of these connectors come off and touch and short out and heat up. And I've actually ran into a scenario where this switch right here, as you can see, it's different than the rest of them. One of the wires back here got loose and it touched another wire and it caused some of the plastic to melt back here, which could have been pretty bad. Now I've replaced all of that. I put a new switch in place, but I'm going to throw one of these right on top of the wiring harness right here, to where it's going to add an extra level of safety and protection in the event something ever occurs and I need to extinguish a fire back here. But this, again, is going to offer a lot of peace of mind. So all I have to do is push this back on, put the screws back, and it's done. Okay, so we have the panel reattached. One thing you want to keep in mind anytime you have a control panel like this is there is a lot of wiring that runs to the back of this. And as you saw in the picture, it can get really bundled up, and you want to make sure that you push the wires up and in, or basically in the route that they need to go to prevent from binding in the back. And that can prevent a lot of wear and tear on the backs of these switches, and it can really prevent them from prematurely failing or even being a fire risk. So we have all the wires bundled up, pushed back up to the top. There's no more pressure on any of the backs of the switches, and now I have the Proteng mounted right above the top here. In the event there's a fire or something is about to catch fire, that thing will burst, extinguish everything going on there, and put out a possible risk. Okay, let's do a quick recap on where I place the Protengs. I have one in the battery box over here. I have one that's in the hot water heater here, and it's just loose. It only has about 4 inches to move around, and it's really not going to move once the RV is stationary, which is really the only time you're going to be using your hot water heater, and that would pose a risk. So that should be fine there. I have another one that is behind the refrigerator. It's coiled up. This is the largest one that I have, mainly because if there is a fire back here, it does pose the greatest fire risk and building up into a larger fire. So that'll extinguish any refrigerator fire very quickly. And then finally, I have one on the control box right inside of the hallway here that's kind of up, attached to the top of the wiring harness area. In the event that there's a fire or any type of a major fire risk there, that'll keep protecting that specific area. I do plan on putting one in the breaker box. I just have to rethink it because there's not a lot of room in there and I have to find the perfect place to put it. So I'm going to contact Proteng and find out specifically how and where I can mount it to my breaker box to prevent any type of risk of fire there as well. So we're pretty much done here at the RV until we come up with a way to fit the smaller one in the breaker box area in the RV. We're going to move on to the truck now. We have a couple of these that will be installed there. One thing I want you to keep in mind is that these are not low-cost devices. These range anywhere from about $200 all the way up to $500 depending on the specific one you need and its application. When you're traveling, you're pulling an RV, or you're staying in an RV, one of the biggest fears we often have is what happens if a fire breaks out? What happens if our engine catches on fire? What happens if our refrigerator or water heater catches on fire? And this is a means to give you far more peace of mind and a way of extinguishing that fire before it turns out to be an inferno. All right, so we're back and it got dark on us, but we installed this specific Proteng in the engine compartment of the truck. Initially, I wanted to put it in the hood, but I found a really good location here that's routed towards the back of the engine, around where the battery is, and all the way across the back in the area that a fire would most likely break out. Now, I have some electrical things that have been wired to the truck through my upfitters, and that's always a concerning area, but ultimately, the route of this Proteng will really address any area that could potentially be a fire hazard, and hopefully put out any fire that could ever happen. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say that, owning a Ford or a Power Stroke or a Cummins or a Duramax, depending on what brand you're loyal to, is going to have more fire issues than another. But the fact is, a fire is something that can always potentially break out in the engine compartment of your vehicle. And having some type of suppression system in place, again, just offers you a little bit of peace of mind. As you can see, I routed it all the way around the back. I used these red zip ties to secure it in place. It's wedged up underneath that little plastic cowling area at the back of the engine, wraps all the way around to the main battery where I have an additional zip tie holding it in place. If this for some reason bursts during a hot day, or if something prematurely triggers it, of course I'll let you guys know, but because FM200 is harmless, it cannot cause any type of issues to the engine according to the folks at Proteng, and that it is completely safe from potentially damaging the engine. So I'm going to install another Proteng here in my toolbox. The reason why is because I keep emergency equipment, I keep a battery booster, I keep a few items with lithium-ion batteries and road flares back here. And I want to be able to protect it just in the event that something catches fire or gets too hot or leads to some type of a fire. So we're going to put the Proteng across the back lid of this WeatherGuard toolbox. Now, because the Protengs come curled up, they're a little bit stiff and you have to really work them into place. So I put these little adhesive zip tie pads in place. You basically pass a zip tie through it and it wraps around whatever you need to secure. I used a couple stainless steel screws that self-tapped into the actual lid itself, and it gave me a mounting location for the Proteng where it's nice, out of the way, and isn't going to interfere with anything that might be in the toolbox. And I especially like the fact that it's going to position the Proteng in such a way that it will extinguish any fire that breaks out really from any section or side of the toolbox. So that's really nice. And this is a really quick install. I think the whole thing from the hood to the toolbox took a total of maybe 30 minutes to complete. Again, guys, this is a product that I think a lot of people wish existed, just never knew that did. And I really wanted to give a big shout out to the folks over at Proteng for allowing me to use several of these, install them in different locations, give you guys ideas of where you may want to put it in your vehicle and your RV, and hopefully get some peace of mind and know that if a fire breaks out, you have that one extra thing that can help extinguish it. Guys, I'm going to put a link to their website in the description of this video. I highly recommend you guys checking them out. Again, these aren't low cost, but just like a fire extinguisher or any other emergency piece of equipment, you want to know it's there when you need it. And I think this is a really awesome invention. Guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.